Hello everybody, in this video I will be playing the dual casting seasonal event. So when we play a special card, a second copy will be played. Note that this only triggers once per turn, so you cannot use a Neuromancy to play 4 spells from your deck. To get the best results, we use a special heavy deck that is 13 units and 12 spells. So let's have a look at the deck. So, let's have a look at our deck. I start by saying this is a Fireswarm swarming deck, despite us using lined pockets as our leader ability. But because of the abundance of crime cards, the lined pockets leader ability is much more suited to this mode than, say, Congregate. Because the lined pockets ability will give us 1 coin every time we play a crime card, and because playing 2 crime cards, whenever we play a crime card, we're getting 2 coins for each one, and there are quite a few crime cards in this deck. Swarm decks have an advantage in dual cast, as special cards provide so many opportunities for removal that units can easily be destroyed. By swarming our opponent, we provide too many targets, or simply targets of too little value. The basic rule of thumb here is that a special card is worth 2 units thanks to dual cast. So we play with the maximum allowable units, the minimum allowable units, 13, and we also want to try not to play too many units from our hand. Instead, we look to rely on cards like a Neuromancy for tutoring our units for us. This will allow us to keep tempo in the dual cast event. Whilst not strictly necessary to win, this card will provide you with such an advantage over your opponent if they do not have it, that your odds are much improved. And thanks to the dual casting effect, cards with the echo keyword can be played up to 10 times throughout the match. Which is why we want to use this cursed scroll as our stratagem. This will allow us to draw any card from our deck, and then put another one from our hand on the bottom to the bottom of our deck. This can ensure that we start with a Neuromancy in our hand if we go first. If we already have Neuromancy, we'll probably just take next most useful special card and mulligan some unit. Aside from a Neuromancy, our biggest special is Deus Ira. It has Echo too, and it's great for swarming. And Deus Ira will do 6 damage to our opponents and boost the units on our side by 2 points. It does require a death blow to boost non-Fireswarm units, but because we have very few in this deck, it doesn't particularly matter. And for only 9 provisions, this card is very powerful. It could be adding 100 or more points to our score over the duration of the match. And we'll basically be wanting to play this card to end every round in our favour. We will be looking to add quite a few bodies to our board to benefit Deus Ira, and we have quite a few options for doing that. One of our strongest spawning special cards is Congregation. As long as we have at least 1 Fireswarm unit in a row, we can spawn 6 more Zealots. And this is going to be our go-to spawning option as it's so easy to use. And if we look at just this and Deus Ira, that's adding 30 points, which shows how powerful a swarm deck can be. We also have another crime card, Collusion. Now, the value of this card will depend on what's in our field. We don't have blind eyes or tide cloaks in this deck, but we do have 2 crown splitters and 1 cut up. Of course, we expect we will always have Fireswarm units on our field, so this deck will spawn 4 Zealots, but play from anywhere between 8 to 24 points, depending on what we have. Our last spawning special card is Damnation. This does 2 damage to 3 adjacent enemies, and for every enemy unit destroyed, we'll spawn a Fireswarm Zealot in one of our rows. This card can spawn to 6 bodies, although it does require death blows to do so, so it can be troublesome. Of course, this card is particularly effective as anti-swarm, so if you will want to have access to it if your opponent is playing monsters or Swarm, Square Tile, Nature's Gift, or you're in a mirror match. It's unfortunately somewhat less useful in other scenarios, although it does still deal 12 damage, so it does still have some value. Among our units, the best we have is Grand Inquisitor Helveed. He can repeatedly spawn zealots for 2 coins. Because playing a crime card will give us 2 additional coins, he can spawn additional zealots whenever we do so. He also comes with the Profit 4 ability, so to maximise value we look to play him with 5 coins in our pouch. This, along with a leader charge, will allow us to immediately put 6 new bodies on our board. The Eternal Fire Disciple is a weaker version of Helveed. He also has Profit ability and can spawn zealots in his row, although he does suffer from a cooldown, so you can only do it once per turn. Nevertheless, if your opponent does not deal with the Disciple, he still functions as a 2-point engine, which will then be multiplied by the number of Dies Irae cards in your hand. Now, the Cleric of the Flaming Rose is only a minor spawner, as you can only do it once, but he does have other advantages. He can spend 1 coin to transform a Fireswarm Zealot into a Flaming Rose Footman. This will increase his power by 1 and give him 1 armor. Of course, this should be used prior to using Dies Irae or it loses value. The Cleric also has a Tribute ability, and this means it is paid as he deploys. And this is valuable for us, because if we are tutoring profit units from our deck, whilst we have 9 coins, the Cleric can be played first to at least recoup some of the excess. Our last spawning unit is Jux de Aldersburg. He will transform after the first round, and then when played, you can pay his tribute to immediately spawn 2 Fireswarm Footmen, and so he provides 3 bodies. You can also spend additional coins through his Fee ability, which will boost Jux, although typically you won't want to stack boosts on a single unit as it can easily be removed. Although if you do have excess coins, this is where you'll use them. Moving on to a unit which benefits from swarms, we have the Fallen Knight. Now this guy is our biggest unit, and probably the focus our opponent's Tall Punish. He has Intimidate, so he'll get additional 2 points whenever we play a crime card, but primarily we're interested in the fact that he boosts himself whenever we spawn units. So for example, if we play Congregation with him on the field, he's going to add 8 points in value to that card. Our other unit which synergizes with Swarm is the Lonely Champion. Now when deployed, he will consume all Fireswarm tokens in his row, and then hide that boost behind his immunity. Now immunity will stop him being targeted by your opponent's cards, and that's particularly powerful in dual cast as most special cards do require targets. But the champion mainly finds value as being a counter to anti-swarm plays like Lacerate, which would hit an entire row. By bundling up our score in one immune unit, we're looking to make it difficult for our opponent to deal with. And of course you do want to do this after playing Dies Irae, when you have more bodies on the field. We also have several powerful control cards, like Karathi Heatwave. This will allow us to remove 2 units for 1 card, so it's very useful here. And it's cards like this that make Swarm decks particularly effective. Most people will run this card, but by spreading out our cards, we reduce the effectiveness of cards like this. Another option is Bloody Good Fun. Now this gives us 4 coins when we play it, and then spends all our coins and damages an enemy by the same amount. So if we have 0 coins in our purse, we will do 4 damage, then 5. We can of course adjust the first blow using our leader ability to take out more powerful units. Our last removal option is Fistek. It will poison a unit, and because this is dual cast, we can then poison it again, instantly destroying it. And playing will also provide us with 10 coins, thanks to the Profit ability, and this will max out our purse. So we generally want to play this after, if we have 0 coins in our purse, and with the intention of playing one of our big spenders. for example Horson's Freak Show. We can then proceed to use the 9 coins and the 1 leader charge to deal 10 damage to our opponents. Freak Show is particularly useful in dealing with swarming opponents before they start boosting. Except for Aneromancy and Heatwave, the specials discussed so far have all been crime cards, so they can all be tutored through Furco. I said that you typically don't want units in your hand, but this is one of the exceptions. You will need to play him from your hand, not tutor him with Aneromancy in order to trigger his dual cast on the card that you tutor. Furco is generally just useful to keep in your hand until you have needed some crime card in your deck. This special card is also not a crime card, so it can't be tutored by Furco. But it will give us Profit 3, and then let's look through our deck and then play a card from it. This is another potential way to tutor units, although if we do not draw Neromancy, we will use this card to get it. Voldic Bank will let us look at up to the top 10 cards of our deck, and so we can quite often find a Neromancy there. Note however that because we do not trigger the dual cast on this Neromancy, it will only be half as effective for the rest of the match. So ideally you don't want to be doing this. Although if you are in a tough situation, it may be your only option. Finally, we look at 2 units which are not typically found in Fireswarm decks, but benefit so greatly from the dual cast mode that I don't think they can be omitted. Sir Skewertooth is the first. He has a tribute ability which you must always pay, so use your leader ability if necessary. This will give him immunity and prevent your opponent from targeting him. He also has the Intimidate 2, so he's going to be getting +4 every time you play a crime card from your hand. And this will make him a very attractive target if he didn't have immunity. The other unit is Herald Gord. Now he boosts himself by 1 for every special card you play during the match. And you'll be doing that a lot, so you could reach 30 power or so. He will of course be your big finisher. As your final play of round 3, you'll want to tutor him through Neromancy for the final point slam. So that's our deck. It certainly doesn't swarm as easily as Arachas Swarm, but because DSR has Echo, it can be boosted much more easily. And it also has very nice tall units like Sir Skewertooth, and that many opponents will find difficult to deal with. So without further ado, let's play.
You'd best yield now!
So long as one knight fights on, the order endures.
Non-human! Neither of mercy nor forgiveness!
Give what we demand. We'll not harm a hair on your wench's head.
Hark, brothers. These are the words of Scripture. The eternal fire guides! The eternal fire protects!
One! He venerates not the fire!
Got a preference?
If I must die, I will die in glorious battle. storm is
Lady
nigh.
Rose!
We have fallen.
Black Cat, hook nose.
Yes, you! Have you made
No
your
doubt about
offering? Yes, you! Have you made your offering?
You'd best yield now!
Remove his cowl, then his ears!